and I have said, and I'm very clear about this, Donald Trump should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. He has not earned the right. He's not earned the right. And that's why he's going to lose. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris.
Oh, well, that meme will never get old now, will it? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. In this video, we have multiple clips from today and yesterday of Scott Jennings absolutely shutting down these leftoid CNN anchors. Also, a good clip of David Urban giving the business to Caitlin Collins about the January 6th quote-unquote insurrection. And our favorite idiot, Sonny Hostin, compares January 6th to the Holocaust, World War II, slavery, and 9/11. Someone get that lady off TV. Let's get it.
Next time.
Of course, to admit it now would be to effectively be admitting one of the biggest cover-ups in modern American political history. Democrat politicians lied. Democrat pundits lied. A lot of people who cover the White House looked the other way or believed absolute crap they were being fed by the White House press secretary.
I'm not disagreeing.
Cheap fakes.
Yeah.
So you think about the pantheon of people who were engaged in the lying, believing the lying, or the cover-up itself. To admit it now would be to say, you know what, America, we did try to pull the wool over your eyes and you weren't buying it. I mean, I guess I understand why keeping up the charade now, to some degree, because to admit it now would be to admit this massive, huge cover-up.
And it would also be to, kick a guy when he's down. I mean, I think we live in the real world. I mean, and this is politics. He's not going to throw Joe Biden all the way under the bus at this stage.
Yeah, I think if that debate hadn't happened, Joe Biden would have probably still been at the top of the ticket in November. But that debate was telling, and I think anybody who watched it, we all were shocked. We were all also very sad and hurt. I mean, it was hard to watch someone who I've worked for
Me too.
Be in that condition. I'll also say, I saw the president a month ago, and he's like, where you been all day? It's like, so.
We have good days and bad days.
Yeah. Right.
What,
let's
okay,
just say
David,
all those people weren't violent protesters.
I'm going to let you make your point, but I want to pull that video back up that we were just showing. Because I want you to make your point, because I think a lot of people share your perspective.
Yeah, those people should go to jail, right?
What we were just showing with the barricades and the officers. Those were not officers just letting them.
No, go to the Supreme Court side.
Yeah, I know the video you're talking about.
No, these people should go to jail. The people on the Supreme Court side, however,
they were trespassing.
They were
trespassing.
Okay, listen,
they
there's
still broke the law.
There's a difference between trespassing and physical
violence.
violence.
I know, but don't you think they should?
Wait,
shouldn't they make an example out of these people though? Like this was wrong. They shouldn't be allowed to trespass.
Everybody should not be treated equally. They were violent criminals, right? They shouldn't be treated equally. There are people. These people who are beating the police should go to jail. There's no excuse for it, right? There's no excuse for it. Some of the people on the other,
do you think then those people should get pardons? Should those people
that beat the police? No, shouldn't
the
be
people
pardoned.
that Donald Trump is promising to pardon?
He didn't promise to pardon everybody. He said he's going to promise. He's going to look at it a case-by-case basis. Let's just be factual. Those are the words, right? And to be factual, the only person that died on January 6th, there was one person that died. Ashley Babbitt was the only person who's died.
And she was there because Donald Trump had
his life.
No, wait a minute. If you're arguing because he didn't die on the 6th, then he passed away on the 7th.
We're talking about who died on January 6th.
That is beyond splitting hairs.
It's not splitting hairs.
Come on.
It's factual.
You don't actually.
Why else was she there? She wouldn't have been there that day if Donald Trump didn't spread conspiracy theories about an election that he knew was not stolen. And he told those people to go to the Capitol. And so she was there as a result of him telling her to be there. She would not have died if it were for Donald Trump to accept the results of the election.
She would have died if the police officer didn't wrongfully shoot her. I wish January 6th, listen, I wish the January 6th committee would have done a full investigation for the American people to see and hear. Listen again. Don't listen to David Urban, American people. Hold on. Don't listen to American people. Go to the video. It's all New York Times put this out. It's all over YouTube. Watch what happened to Ashley Babbitt.
Looking at this.
Business, I think before we canonize St. Kamala here on the high holy day of January 6th, let's remember the Electoral Count Reform Act of 2022 makes it perfectly clear that the vice president has nothing but purely ministerial duties on this day. She didn't actually certify the results of the election. That's done by the voters and the people of the
It was clear as day 4 years ago as well. Right. But because of the
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, nobody's trying to canonize her. The same thing was true for
they're not. I mean, she put out a video trying to canonize herself.
She was actually just saying it's unremarkable. That's true.
That's the opposite of canonizing.
I want to actually congratulate the Democrats today. This is the first election since 1980.
He's doing this again.
This is the first election since 1988
Scott,
that a Republican won, and Democrats did not try to overturn the results on the floor of the Congress. So congratulations, Democrats.
I'm only interrupting you because we've heard this before.
We've played this.
Well, you've heard the truth before, but I thought it was worth repeating.
Here's the thing. Parliamentary disputes.
There were not parliamentary disputes.
Mr. Speaker, a point of order.
No, that's not what happened. They tried to stop the counting of the votes.
You gotta love Scott Jennings. Without him, that CNN panel, it's The View if they don't have him on there. It's no better than Whoopi and the girls. Speaking of Whoopi and the girls, let's get to Sunny Hostin comparing January 6th to slavery, World War II, the Holocaust. This lady is off the chain.
President Biden also penned an op-ed warning about the unrelenting effort to rewrite and even erase the history of that day. So is that what happened here? I mean, we all watched.
Yep.
I think most of us saw. I mean, some folks still say that's not what happened, but but what do we do?
I think we need to find moral clarity, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery, we need to never forget because past becomes prologue if you forget any race.
I want to ask you.
Take a look here. All right. January 6th is the biggest memory of Trump's first term. Look at this.
Wow.
It's just 5.
That is something.
It's just 5%. I mean, most folks simply were willing to dismiss it without much of an issue. And among Republicans, what do we see? It was just 2%. So even though you had that significant chunk of Republicans who said, we oppose it, even though the vast majority of Americans opposed it, the bottom line, when it came to November, even when it comes now, most Americans, simply put, Manu, are not thinking about it.
And of course, you can see from that little clip right after Sunny Hostin from CNN, the American public don't care about January 6th that much. They're not comparing it to the Holocaust. They want more money in their pocket. They want a safer border. Unfortunately, people died on that day, and we can't forget that because that is an unfortunate event, but it wasn't an insurrection, people. Now let's get to a CNN panel where Anderson Cooper, Scott Jennings, Adam Kenzinger talk about the pardons that might or may not happen for the January 6ers once Trump gets in office. Let's go.
Should President Biden issue pardons for the January 6th committee members, including yourself?
No, I don't want it. Look, here's the thing.
You don't want it?
No, because the second a pardon is issued, and look, I understand the theory behind it, because Donald Trump has clearly said he's going to go after everybody. And it's not going to be for the January 6th investigation. What they'll do is they'll weaponize other investigations. They'll look into everything and start an investigation that'll end up coming to naught, force people to pay money. This happened to Brad Raffensperger in Georgia as he was forced to defend himself. But the second you take a pardon, it looks like you're guilty of something. I'm guilty of nothing besides bringing the truth to the American people and in the process embarrassing Donald Trump, because for 187 minutes he sat there and did absolutely nothing and showed how weak and scared he truly was. So no, I don't want it. And, the bottom line is, if he wants to bring up January 6th again, we've had all this talk about how we're moving on from January 6th, and trust me, Anderson, I would love to. Like, my life has been defined by this for 4 years, but if he wants to bring it back, I will be happily talking about everything the committee did and learned and re-embarrassed.
What some people may not realize is you're saying you don't want a pardon. Fighting whatever might come your way can cost you and your family, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, you think about it, and this happened with Brad Raffensperger. People would just sue him. And so he'd have to defend himself. And he had to defend himself out of personal money. I have insurance from my time in office, but still, you have to defend yourself, spend money, and then ultimately, DOJ or whatever says, yeah, we didn't find anything, but 3 years later, after you spend this, that's how they weaponize this. It's not going to be that they're going to come after you for actual January 6th investigation. They'll make it hard. But you know what? The thing I take into account is I will use that as an opportunity to show the American people what the country should not be and ever be again. And if that's a process to save, democracy, then I'm happy to fight that fight.
There's also kind of an effort in this. Yes, it's about intimidation, harassment. It's also to smear people. And in a hyper-polarized environment, that can become dangerous. That's just a fact. When people's actions are misrepresented, when things are called treasonous that are very much in line with the law and congressional procedure. But to Adam's point, I have not heard anyone who outright say that they would like a pardon, because I don't think anyone believes they did anything wrong on the committee. But what stuns me is Donald Trump won. Yet you have Mike Johnson say they're going to investigate the committee. Donald Trump's still talking about January 6th. The unwillingness to move on and take a beat from what was one of the darkest days in his first term and just be forward-looking. There is so much this Congress could do that could be really good for the American people. It is not investigating Liz Cheney. That is a waste of time, taxpayer dollars, and it is not what people elected him to do.
It's also an attempt to change the subject, because part of the process of whitewashing January 6th and the events of that day is trying to make this not about that, but about the people who were looking into it, and turning pretty routine conduct of Congress people, yourself included, Adam, into something criminal is part of the plan that is designed to distract. And I do think that it is probably going to be enabled by pretty senior people in the Congress, and that we should probably just get used to it. This is the reality. Trump, in a way, not only does he want to do it, but I think his base is giving him no choice. He ran on doing this. So I think that's one of the reasons that we can expect it.
Go ahead.
I actually think that's why the last time we were talking about the nominees of Akash Patel has been very clear that he wants to lead the charge with the FBI in doing some of these investigations. So that actually could be one signal for the Senate to say, we don't want to go down that path. We want to and push back on his nomination. Look, I'll sound like a broken record. There is an opportunity here for Donald Trump. I'm not going to agree with his policies, probably what he puts forth in the tax bill or on immigration, but he could be a leader and earn some of my respect by acknowledging the mistakes of the past and saying we are moving forward. I am highly doubtful he will do that, but there is an opportunity because we are an extremely divided country, and there are many Americans that did not want him to be reelected because of January 6th. And there is a chance and an opportunity for him to govern, but I think he will be distracted by retribution.
Well, first of all, I think when he has said in the past, our retribution will be our success, I think that's the correct way to look at it. This has been a strange period because the events of January 6th, the following investigations, the legal actions after that, and then all the other investigations to him, the lawfare against him. Ultimately, the American people got to look at all of this on Election Day and make a decision. And they did. And so if I were in his shoes, I would not feel happy about everything that I had to live through, everything that happened to me on all of those fronts, but I would feel extremely vindicated about what happened to me politically. And moving forward, the best possible vindication here for him as a president would be to pass the laws that you said you were going to pass, fix the immigration system you were going to fix, get the economy under control for everyday people, unleash American energy. All these things you ran on, if you were able to do that, you'll be remembered not just as the greatest comeback story politically of all time, but as a really good president. And so I think there's a way to do all that while leaving the past in the past and accepting the vindication of the politics of election.
I think what Trump's going to do, I think he's going to pardon the people that are still in jail from this event. They shouldn't be. I don't think he's going to go after Cheney and all these other people, though. I think he's going to focus on the border. He's going to focus on the economy. The same way he didn't actually go after Hillary Clinton, I don't actually think he's going to go after anybody. We'll see, though. We'll see. Now, in our final clip, let's watch Scott Jennings give it to Bakari Sellers. Let's go.
And joining me right now, CNN political commentator Scott Jennings and Bakari Sellers to talk all about this. Bakari, as our colleague Stephen Collinson wrote it, January 6, 2025 will mark the most stunning political comeback in U.S. history. Congress will convene to certify Trump's 2024 election win, clearing his way to be America's 47th president. Today marks showing American democracy works, or the nation has short memories.
Short memories. I think that Democrats should go out and Joe Biden should rally on the Mall. I think then we should go in and make sure that we sit on Mike Johnson's desk. We should take the Confederate flag and parade through the Capitol. I think we should injure 140 officers. And then if Kamala Harris dares to certify the vote, we should threaten to hang her. I mean, do you see how, I think people should understand how ludicrous that sounds, but that's where we were 4 years ago. That is what this incoming president helped usher in. But what we've realized is it's not just short memories. It's the same thing we've seen around the world with Justin Trudeau later this week and others. But it's the same thing we've seen around the world. These economic pressures, prices rising, cultural anxiety lead to these electoral outcomes.
Scott, in a political sense, is it how we got here? Is interesting, and you can see the evolution. You can play all the sound bites from the days after when you heard Republicans blaming Donald Trump, some being short of saying he should be impeached, saying he should be held accountable. And 4 years later, we are here. It is a stunning political comeback attributed to how Trump played it afterward, how Democrats played it afterward, or something else?
Well, I think it's some mixture of everything. But to me, the big message is that in the United States, the people decide. And because of the disastrous 4 years that came after Donald Trump, the people decided to return Donald Trump to power. And that's fundamentally what happened. They looked at what happened on January the 6th. They looked at all the things Democrats claimed about Donald Trump. And they also analyzed every single decision that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris made. And they delivered Donald Trump a convincing victory 4 years later.
It is tough, though, Scott, because when you say the people decide, that's what people tried to make sure didn't happen on January 6th, was allowing the people to decide.
The machinery turned. It was a terrible...
The lack of acknowledgement of how bad it was in the aftermath.
I mean, I think a great many people have acknowledged it, but also what happened that day. The machinery turned. Joe Biden became the president. He had one of the worst terms of any U.S. president, and then the people scrambled back to Donald Trump. That is the history of what happened.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I look at today, Donald Trump is inheriting one of the best economies that a president has inherited in a very long period of time. If you look at the fact that something like net migration at the border is lower than it was even before Donald Trump took office. If you want to look at the stock market, you're looking at the stock market rising.
I'm sorry.
I'm not even finished running it down yet.
This is the first time. The border needs to be secured further, and this number can be accurate.
This is the first time in dozens of years that a president has actually inherited a government where we don't have soldiers overseas in active combat zones. So, I mean, let's actually look at where we are. He is actually inheriting a government right now that is much better than any predecessor he's had before.
Okay. I mean, I recognize that was the argument that was made during the election, and I would also like to recognize that the American people soundly rejected that argument. We do have American troops in forward locations all over the world.
Not in combat zones.
But they are in hot spots. I mean,
not in combat zones.
We just had an American soldier die not too long ago in the Middle East.
Correct. And they're protecting our freedom every day.
Trying to fix Joe Biden's $300 million public relations pier for Gaza. I mean, the reality is migration was a disaster. Immigration was a disaster for 3.5 years. And they tried to window dress it for the last 6 months. Inflation was a disaster for all 4 years. The economy is not working for most people. That's why Democrats lost the election, and that's why they're going back to Trump.
Democrats lost the election. Nobody's arguing that. I mean, that's what the argument was 4 years ago when Donald Trump was filing lawsuits and they were raiding the White House. What we are saying, though, is that prices are going down. What I am saying is murder rates.
Going down.
They actually are going down.
Inflation is still
plateauing.
It is decreasing in rate, which is the entire goal.
But
of
are
the
prices
Federal
going
Reserve.
down or not? Just to be clear. No, they're not.
They
going
are
down
from their sky high rates. Yes.
No.
Let's move on. Next up for
we were just arguing over combat zones. I don't know where we are this morning.
You can argue.
You guys are trying to paint a picture of a country that doesn't exist.
I'm not painting anything. I'm painting. Stop talking. That's what I'm painting. Next up. Sarah, help me. Next up, the Republican majority in Congress is now getting to work. They've got the talk of this big bill that they want to try to put forth, combining all of Trump's priorities, a lot of the topics we're talking about here, into one massive bill. It's been described as what could be the biggest bill in American history. Could this be good for Democrats in getting priorities? Because what does a big bill do? You shove a whole bunch of stuff in.
This isn't happening. I mean, what we're going to learn is that, and Scott knows this better than I do because his relationship with Mitch McConnell, but one of the most important people in the United States Senate is the parliamentarian. And so a lot of these things that we want to happen, Democrats tried to usher in immigration reform through reconciliation. That didn't quite happen because and you have individuals around the president. For example, I read an article the other day from Bill Ackman, who was saying that President Trump is going to privatize Fannie and Freddie.
Remind him to do that.
One of his goals, one of his priorities. Like, you can't pass that through reconciliation. I mean, that's just not going to happen, and the votes aren't there to do it.
A lot of people will say it's not going to happen, but could this be what we have seen before? Let's talk about with the eyes on, how Mitch McConnell has run things in the past, which is say things out loud to road test it, and then when the public relations of it is a disaster, then you can say we can't do that.
It would be an enormous piece of legislation. I do think it's within the realm of the possible. I do think if it comes out of the House, which is no small feat given the margins, this is usually when these things run into the Senate parliamentarian, they get trimmed up a little bit. But I do think it's possible because what he's proposing to put in there is exactly what he ran on: immigration, energy, which, by the way, is now of heightened importance because of Joe Biden's executive order today on his way out the door, or his staff's executive order banning offshore drilling. You got to deal with all these things that he ran on. If you can get it done in one vote, that's far better than dragging this out. So it's an ambitious idea. I wish them well. I hope they get it done. But it's what the people voted for in the election, and it's what every Republican member of Congress ran on, too. So people, truthfully, shouldn't have too much trouble voting for it.
When people talk about we should read the bill, good luck with this one. That's all I'm saying if this thing goes through. Gentlemen, thank you. I think. You want to talk about Justin Trudeau?
I wanted to talk about Canada.
You want to talk about Canada?
God bless the truckers. That's what I'm saying. Well, there's a direct line from those truckers to what's happening today. Good riddance.
I'm sleeping. It's only Monday. It's my first day back. This is hard on me.
Bakari Sellers, a little bit of a useless tit. Now, when you watch this clip, her telling Scott Jennings and Bakari Sellers to zip it. Imagine if a man did that on air, told a woman to zip it, let's move on. You would never hear the end of it. Oh, I can't believe a man would talk to a woman that way. Oh, imagine if it was a black woman. Oh my God, you would never hear the end. That would make every woke media headline for the next week. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Good times are coming. January 20th can't come soon enough. I'm loving seeing the media meltdowns happen. God bless our boy Scott Jennings. You all have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.